Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I know it was short notice, but we have some interest in our lead generation program, the one we call, the Xtreme Max. And I thought, let me just leverage the conversation to whomever might be interested in getting a little bit more information on this. So what I'll do is I'll start off by just kind of giving you an overview summary of what it is that this program is all about. And then what will happen is I want to open it up for Q&A. And of course, I'm going to share the monies aspect of it because everybody wants to know how does the money part work. But I think it's impossible. What I found out, it's almost impossible to make an informed decision unless you understand the entire of the program is in its entirety. I think we as real estate agents, as human beings, we tend to zero in on, well, what am I going to net on the deal? And I think it's like, what am I losing money by going into this program? And then people don't understand what this program can potentially do for you. So let's go ahead and start at the beginning. I mean, Gabby and I, we started Xtreme Realty and then Xtreme International Realty uh, 13 years ago. Up until just a few months ago, we were never really a lead generation company team. Now, we did try from time to time to create a lead generation opportunity, and they simply didn't work. I mean, we just lost tons and tons of money, and for various reasons, it never took off. So what we did is we settled into a pattern, a culture that is when you join Xtreme, you're not joining Xtreme because you're getting leads or you're being promised leads. And I've always said, hey, listen, I believe in teaching you how to fish so that you can eat for a lifetime, not having you line up every morning and say, here's your fish for today, here's your fish for today. So when agents have joined and stayed with Xtreme, it's because of the culture, the community, the training, all these things. And maybe every now and then they may have been a lead that was, issued out. Now, a few months ago, we were approached by LPT and it says, look, we're launching now a team growth division. And as part of the team growth division, we're approaching a very small number of teams that are currently not lead generation teams. Most of the teams within LPT are exactly that. You go there because they're going to feed you leads and you have to march to their drumbeat. None of this, I'll show up whenever I want to and all this kind of stuff. It's like, here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to do. But there are also teams like us that are more of a hybrid model. And that is that, no, we're part of a brokerage, but we're not feeding you leads. And they said this could be a way for you to now add that on as an additional service or program for your agents. And here's what we've done. And they've basically perfected this program by trying it out on other teams and saying, look, if people were to follow the program as it's laid out, it can be exceptionally successful for them. But here are some things that they need to keep in mind and what they need to do. So I said, oh my God, this is awesome because it allowed us to stay Xtreme, stay what we've always been, but now offer something that we've never been able to offer before because there were people that we interviewed that said, no, I'm really looking to join a lead generation team. Sorry, we're not them. And we've had people from time to time that says, hey, is there any way you can create leads? Sorry, that's not us. And now we could do that. And we could have both of them side by side living in perfect harmony. All right. So we introduced it and we thought that we would have a lot of agents interested in it because the reality is we know how sales have been for the past 3 years. We have seen better days in real estate. Now, when I was presented with this program, and it didn't take me very long to come to the conclusion that there are people that this program could be perfect for, and there are people that it's not intended for. And the way I described it was if you are already achieving your individual definition of success, what we at LPT call IDOS, if you are already achieving your individual definition of success, you don't need this program. You wouldn't do this program because there is a little bit of a pay cut when it comes to the splits. And why would you do it if you're already achieving what you set out to achieve. Does that make sense? Everybody can give me a thumbs up and everything else. So let's say someone is doing 2 transactions a year, 1 transaction per year, and that's their individual definition of success. That's what they're looking for. That's what they need. That makes a huge impact on their family. God bless them. Or somebody could be doing 6 or 7 transactions per year, not necessarily their individual definition of success, but they feel that maybe by tweaking this or adding this or that, they can achieve that. So they don't necessarily have to go with a lead generation program. They just need to step up their game in certain areas. So right away, I thought those people are not going to be very good candidates for this. And then I looked at everybody else, right? I looked at the big long list of agents that I know are hurting, that I know are struggling, that I know want to do more and are finding it nearly impossible to do it because they're struggling in the most important area that you need to address, and that is lead generation, prospecting. And I've always thought that lead generation is really about marketing, which is throwing stuff against the wall. And then there's prospecting, which is aggressively making phone calls and knocking on doors. And for a variety of reasons, agents struggle with this and nothing really happens. So when I presented this, I said, okay, guys, here's the deal. If you think you can do this, 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 and this, then I think this could be the perfect program for you. Now, we did not get the response that we got, that we should have received. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And we do have some folks involved in it. And we're having some challenges in that area. So what I've decided to do, and this is really as a result of a conversation that I had with 2 of the vice presidents at LPT last Friday. I said, guys, I'm thinking about just letting it go. I don't think we can make this work. It's not happening. I don't have the buy-in from my agents, and the ones that are in the program are not really doing what they're supposed to do. I think maybe I should walk away. And their response was, what if you cast a wider net? I go, well, he goes, because right now you're only getting leads in Miami-Dade and Broward, right? Oh, yeah. Well, what if you had the whole state or virtually the whole state to work with? What if you could do an expansion team? What if you now could say, hey, guys, if you're in Orlando and want to join Xtreme, here's a good reason. I got leads, Fort Myers, Fort Pierce, Jupiter, Port St. Lucie. In fact, they said about the only area in Florida that they probably could not do a good job of getting leads is Jacksonville. And I'm like, well, I don't have any team members up there, so it doesn't really matter to me. So based on that conversation, I really got re-excited about the program because I thought, you know what? We have a good 30 plus members of the team that are all over the state. They're all over the state. And a couple of them reached out to me saying, I would be interested. And I said, well, I'm sorry, we're not doing your program. So if what you're saying is we could turn on the spigot tomorrow and they could get leads, we could do that. And then what we did is we said, if we're going to start anywhere, let's start with Central Florida, because that's a pretty big piece of the pie. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to be up on September 14th teaching a class in Orlando. I'm teaching my CDPE up there. Why don't I stay an extra day and maybe we host an event to introduce agents in the area to it? Oh, I love that. Where should we do it? Hey, long story short, we're doing it at corporate headquarters in Lake Mary on September 15th. We're calling it a lunch and discovery event. So our goal is going to be, hey, maybe we'll get 5 people, maybe we'll get 30 people that will want to come out there and find out what this program is all about. And then we go from there. Now, I didn't want to hesitate and wait. So that same Friday, I posted in our chat, hey guys, we now have all these other areas available. Let's have a conversation. So that's what brought us to this point. Now, how does the program work? Well, the program works because LPT has contracted with several lead generation portals. And you've heard the names of a lot of these, right? You know that Zillow's a big one. and realtor.com and realty.com. And the goal is, don't quote me exactly, but the goal was, I believe that by third quarter of this year, there would be almost as many as 10 different sources that the leads are coming in from. All right. So the way they come in is everything is done through Follow Up Boss, and that's called FUB, F-U-B for short. Follow Up Boss is a very powerful CRM, and FUB is available to all LPT agents that are willing to pay $49 a month. You know, a lot of the LPT agents use Lofty. They paid their one-time fee, and now Lofty is, you know, no additional fee. But Follow Up Boss is kind of like the industry bad boy. I mean, they're the ones, everybody uses them. And so everything would be controlled through Follow Up Boss. Whoever is on in the program, the leads are entered into there, they're issued and assigned from there, and all the communication in turn happens from there. And whomever's in the program has access to Follow Up Boss at no fee. So that $49 a month, there is no fee. I says, okay, all right, I'm feeling it, I understand, and everything else. And says, okay, so then what happens is we put the word out and we said, who is interested in doing this? I took some questions and everything else. And then that's where we are right now. So what I want to do is, if there's any question up until now, do not ask me how the money works, because I haven't explained it yet, and I will explain it. But I just want to know if, based on what I have said so far, if there's any questions about what I have said so far. And I'll take a pause there to see if there is. Anyone? Okay. Now, do you guys see my screen okay? All right, so here's how it works. I don't know if it's really confusing or not. It really comes down to, there's two plans. There's the plan that is, the lead came from the team. The team generated the lead for an agent. And then there's what is called self-generated leads. Okay, so let me talk about the team-generated one first, and then the self-generated one. And this is going to clear up a lot. At the same time, it may open up some confusion, and I'm going to explain it all. Okay, once I've explained all aspects of the money part of it, then I want to conclude with the type of agent I'm looking for to be in this program, because it's not right for everyone. You may be 1000% okay with the money aspect of it, and you're still not a good candidate for the program. And I will share why you would not be. And I'm going to share with you, because now, after doing this for a couple of months, I know who I'm looking for. And I know who's going to be a good fit and who's not going to be a good fit. So let's say you're in this program and you're handed a buyer lead. It could be, and most of them are buyer leads. For certain agents that reach a level of proficiency, that means they're really, really, really good, they also have the potential to get seller leads as well. But let's keep it to what is most common. It's buyer leads. Now, quick disclaimer, this is a hypothetical transaction. This is just a make-believe transaction. And between everything I did, I may have, if I catch myself saying, wait a minute, that math is wrong, I'll tell you right on the spot, wait a minute, I can't do math. But let's start with a $10,000 sale, commission. In other words, you represent the buyer. The commission to our side is $10,000. And the lead came from the team, someone you never, ever would have met ever in your life. That's where the lead came from. Okay, $10,000, 40% or $4,000 right off the top goes to the lead portal. So the lead portal, as I said, it could be Zillow, it could be realtor.com, it could be whatever. They get their piece of the pie. This is very, very common. Okay, so 40% or $4,000 right off the top goes. That leaves $6,000. I think you shake your head and say, okay, that makes sense. 10,000, 4,000 leaves 6,000. At that point, it's a 50-50 split with the team. That means you as the agent would get a gross of $3,000. Now, LPT has fees, okay? 99.99% of you are on the business builder plan. That means it's a 500 plus a 195 fee. So that would be minus 695. But what have we always told you? You have the opportunity, the discretion to pass all of that, some of that, more than that on to the customer. So let's say in this example, you told the buyer right up front, hey, there's a 695 fee due at closing. They said, no problem. And you get 695 back, then your net is $3,000. Okay. So that is an example of a team generated split. Now the commission could be 20,000, it could be 30,000, it could be 7,000. Okay. But based on this example, a team generated split, 40% of 4,000 off the top goes to Zillow, whomever. That leaves 6,000, which is split 50-50 between the team, which is Gabi and myself, and the agent. The agent is responsible for the fees to LPT, and the agent has the opportunity to recover those fees. Here's what the agent nets. Now, I'm going to stop right there. Do not ask me a question about the other columns yet, please. Does this column make perfect sense? Does anybody have a question about this column? Don't be afraid to ask. I want you to make an informed decision. Okay? Or give me a thumbs up if it's pretty self-explanatory. Right? How about give me a thumbs up that you're still awake? I don't know. All right? You with me so far? Okay. Now, let's transition now to a self-generated lead. So let's say a friend of yours, a family member, comes out of nowhere and says, hey, I'm ready to buy. Okay. Well, you're part of this program now. And with this program, the way it's designed, on any self-generated lead, it is a 70-30 split. That means 70% goes to the agent, 30% goes to the team. This is where we ran into some issues because most of you are probably on a 90-10 split, or maybe some of you, if you're brand new and never done any business, you might be on an 80-20 split. I'm gonna for the sake of simplicity, most of the agents are on 90-10. So here's what the agent said to me. Tony, so I lose money on this transaction. Why can't I stay on my 90-10 on self-generated leads and do the team? In other words, the agent would say, I don't have a problem with this setup on the team-generated ones because these are people I never would have gotten. So we're at least on the same page. Where the agents ran into an issue is, but what about the guy that I would have gotten?
There's an issue that I get, like in this side, every single, like on the back, right around here.
The guys,
yeah, right around there.
Hey, Zoom 101.
More nervously,
Mute yourself.
Yeah, that's what I think it is, neuropathy or something like that. Nothing looking stimulated there. Back.
Jeanette, are you on the call? Can you just zoom that just.
Oops, I'm on the call, but I'm not a host. I can't do anything.
Okay, nice to say that at the very beginning. Okay, so hold on a second.
All these little scabs here that I keep on, and this.
Unbelievable.
It's actually what we call a digital mucus cyst. It's a cyst that involves a joint.
Guys, how many times do we have to do a Zoom for folks to realize that when you're on Zoom, you're muted? It's almost like we have to have a Zoom 101 class, for crying out loud. My patience is at 0 when it comes to this stuff right now. The issue was everything came around from the self-generated leads. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all this money. Okay. And I said, well, how much business have you done so far this year? Zero. Okay, so you're 8 months into the year. You haven't sold anything, but you're ready to turn down a program that could potentially change your life because you might lose 20% on a transaction that you don't even know you're ever going to have. And that's exactly the pushback that I received. No, because I have this guy I've been working with. I think he's finally going to maybe someday, if the moon rises and the sun sets a certain way, I'm going to get this. I'm going. So what you're saying is this potential here doesn't incredibly outweigh the maybe someday kind of sort of. And it says, well, why can't I just make the same amount? I go, because all lead generation programs have learned one valuable lesson. The minute you can make more money doing something else, you will ignore these leads. You will ignore them. You'll say, no, I'm gonna chase that 90-10 one that I'm doing because I'm only making 50-50 or I'm only making 70-30 on this one. And what we found is you cannot serve two masters in a lead generation program. You have to be all in or not. Okay, you have to be all in or not. And so that is what caused many people that I thought would be excellent candidates to be in this program that said no. So then what I did is I went to LPT and I said, look, I got some, I think, very talented people on the sidelines not doing it for this reason. Is there any way that you can make an exception? Maybe Miami's different. Maybe Miami is unique. They came back and said respectfully, no. If we make a change, it has to be consistent across all the teams. We just can't do something special for one group in one area. And I respect that. So then I sat down with Gabi and I says, I have an idea, and I ran the idea by her. And then I went back to LPT and says, what if we could offer them 80-20 on self-generated? But that extra 10% that I'm asking for, it'll come out of Gabi and my side. In other words, we're willing to lose money on it so that they can feel like, okay about it. I said, well, yeah, that's your money to give away. If you want to do that, we're good with that. And that's why I introduced this several weeks ago. Guys, by the way, I got some great news. If you're in the program now, you just got a raise. And if you are thinking about being in the program, the only condition is that you must be a part of the program by the end of August. So this example you see here of the self-generated lead, where there is no money going to the portal because it didn't come from a portal. And then the agent, 3,000 goes to the team and 7,000 goes to the agent, less the 695 plus the 695 equals 7,000. And then to the right of that, it's just simple math. If somebody were to take me up on my offer by the end of August, then they get that 10% bump on self-generated leads. So the net would be 8,000. And then one of the things that they reminded me of is say, Tony, make sure your agents understand that these team-generated leads can create many self-generated leads in the future. And I go, explain. It says, well, let's say, for example, we give them a lead for a buyer. And it was a team-generated lead. That person is so happy with the service they received that a friend or family member wants to buy now as well. And they recommend the agent. That will not be considered a team-generated lead. That would actually come under self-generated lead. And I go, oh my God, you're right. That could open up so many possibilities for someone. Every team-generated lead, if you do right by the people, could create unlimited self-generated leads going forward. In fact, the way the program was designed, it was not designed to keep the agent dependent on the team indefinitely. It was join the program, get your feet wet, get some transactions under your belt, start to build your network and everything else. And when you feel like you could fly solo, you could operate without any team generated leads, then you could exit the program and go right back to where you were before. And I went, that makes perfect sense to me. And right from the very beginning, when we were presented with this, the very first thing that Gabby said is, well, what about rentals? And they said, you know what you're doing with rentals doesn't change. So in other words, all of the agents on our team right now that depend heavily on rentals and do very little to no actual sales, they wouldn't even remotely be hurt because they're still making the same on the rentals, but they now have access to buyer and seller leads. So this is the way I explain how the monies work. And this example you see here on the right, that ends in 6 days. When we go out and do this class in September in Orlando, these folks are not going to get the option to be 80-20. I'm not doing it. I'm only doing for people on our team that we felt needed a little extra. And you know why I did it? Because honestly, I don't think it's even going to come up. I mean, how can it cost me money if they're probably not going to do a self-generated sale anyway? So this is not about me being condescending or anything else. It's just real world. Okay, we're in a tough market, a very tough market. Okay, sales are at one of the worst levels ever. I know who's struggling. I know how much they're struggling. So what I want someone to do is pick this program apart. And again, if you're already making 8 to 10 sales a month, why are you even on the call? This is not for you. You just add time on your hands. So you can't say, well, I will lose a ton of money. Well, why are you even on the call? This was designed for the folks that are not achieving their goals, that aren't making their sales. So I'm going to pause there for any questions on the financial side. And then I'm going to transition to what is actually expected for someone that says, you know what, this is me. I want to do it. So please ask any and all questions. We'll tackle them all right now. Okay. So no questions at all. I explained it that perfectly. There's no questions about this part of it at all. Okay. No problem. Okay. So what's expected? Well, here's what I found. I have found that it's nearly impossible for a part-timer to do this program because here's what's expected from you. This is done in several rungs or levels. Rung 1, I'll give you an example. Rung 1, for someone to advance to rung 2, they had to add 20 sphere of influence contacts to FUB. In other words, you just had to add 20 people that you know, friends, family members, anybody. You just had to add 3 into that. Okay. You had to record yourself doing 3 presentations, either a listing presentation or a buyer presentation. Right away, people started freaking out. I said, why would you freak out? These are friends. These are family. Well, why would I do a presentation to a friend or family? Because they probably do not know you as an agent. They probably only know you as their cousin, their friend, their drinking buddy. They don't really look at you as a professional. What a great opportunity for you to say, you know what? I need to do this presentation. I want to do it for you. And watch what can potentially happen. These folks are probably like, man, you're good at this. I had no idea. that you were doing this. Man, that's great. I go, well, so based on what I said, you want to buy, you want to sell, you want to rent, you want to invest. You know anybody that does? You see what we were doing that? We're getting you warmed up. There are people that struggled with those three. Come on, really? Those three. That and there's a couple of things a little, but then we went to rung two. Rung two is where it got serious. Rung two is where you started receiving leads. You actually started receiving leads and you are required to start calling them. Okay. And the requirement is at least 50 phone calls per day. So here's what we found. We found the phone calls were not being made, or the phone calls were not being documented. Because here's what happens. The best way for you to make the calls are right through FUB. Right through FUB, you can dial right through FUB, make the phone call, and it documents that you made a phone call, right? And so the agents that would make calls would make it from their cell phone and would not enter that information into FUB. And we have a saying, if it's not on FUB, it doesn't exist. Plus, there's at least 15 presentations that are required. It's not just the 50 dials, it's a certain number of conversations. And that's where everything kind of ground to a halt. Okay. And no one is advanced beyond that. And until you get beyond that, you don't get the best quality leads. You don't get the potential to get a handoff, like saying, hey, we got someone on the phone right now that wants to go look at a house. Are you available to go show it to them? That doesn't exist in rung two. So now, to support the program, every Monday there's training. There's training on different runs. And there's everything from, what are you having an issue with? Well, I feel shy calling. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do, all these things. But what I found is if you have a full-time job and you can't be on the training, it doesn't do you any good. If you can't if you don't have the discipline to carve the time out in your schedule to make the phone calls, because you know what? I don't care that you work 8 to 5. You got from 5 until 9 o'clock or whatever, right? To make phone calls. You can get it done. And on the weekend, you can get more done. But you know what? If life is lifing and you have too many other obligations and your head is not in the right place, then don't sign up for the program, because we all look bad in that situation. None of us accomplish anything if you're in the program, but you're not making the calls, or you're making the calls, but you don't document. In other words, if none of what we're teaching you is being done, then it's a waste of time for everyone. So I'm not saying that I'm only going to take full-timers, but if you're part-time, we're going to have a real conversation and say, hold on. So show me, when are you going to make the time to make these calls? How are you going to be able to make it to these training sessions if you're not there? Many of the training sessions are Monday, say at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or Monday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you can't free yourself up to be there for those, then you probably won't be able to do it. So what I'm looking for right now is someone that gets it. They understand the finances side of it. They understand the potential. They understand that this is work, that they're going to have to be uncomfortable. They're going to have to maybe push beyond all the areas that they've been afraid to do. Cold calling. Yes, of course, we're giving you scripts, we're giving you training and everything, but no one is making the call for you. You have to get past whatever's holding you back to do it, and give it the amount of time it deserves. You don't give something like this a month. You know, you should be giving this at least 3, 4, 5, 6 months. If at the end of 6 months it's not working for you, you can go right back to where you were before. Or you know what? If I feel that you're not giving it your all, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then I'm going to remove you from the program before the 6 months anyway. And then what happens is I turn into the bad guy, right? Or Tony kicked me out of the program. No, you kicked yourself out of the program. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. So it's got to be only for people that are willing to be held accountable. And anyway, that's what I have to say. What questions, comments you have on everything we've shared so far?
I just have a question. This is
Mhm.
Catherine. How many like calls do we have to make for the first stage? I didn't get that. Like just to practice.
The first stage is, I don't, you know what happens is when you enter, we send you an email and it's got it. So don't quote me. It's very few, you're not getting any actual leads in your first stage. You're basically reaching out to your circle of influence. So let's say, for example, you're required to enter 20 of your friends and family. You should be calling those 20 saying, I need a favor. I need you to listen to my presentation. And you can do it in person. You can do it over Zoom, but you have to have at least a photo or a short recording of yourself doing it to prove that you did the presentation. Does that make sense?
Yes. But
So,
that's like not a number specific. It's like whatever I
or
enter.
you can't go to rung two unless you have at least 3 presentations.
3%. Okay, got it.
But I wouldn't stop at 3. If you entered 20, then do 20. Because what happens is every presentation you get better. And now you got 20 fans out there saying, wow, Catherine's amazing. I only knew Catherine as my cousin or whatever, but my goodness, she's a professional realtor. You should hear what she has to say. I had people that say, I did my 3 and I stopped. Excuse me? Why would you stop? You want to keep going because this is all about providing for you and your family.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yes, Shadisa, it is required to use Follow-Up Boss, but you don't pay for it. It is included in the program. Okay. But no, there is no alternative. You have to use Follow-Up Boss. And if it's not entered in Follow-Up Boss, it doesn't have there. Listen, I don't really have a formal list of things. What I just said is what's expected. At the end of the day, you either have time to make the calls, you make the commitment to make the calls, you make the commitment to be accountable and document the calls, and you do the minimum number of presentations. What we want to do is get to the point where maybe only 2 or 3 of our agents are actually on rung 3. Rung 3, those are the elite ones. Those are the ones that are going to get first shot at the leads, the handoffs, and everything else. So somebody might stay in rung 2 forever, but that doesn't make sense. You see, here's what I want to get across, right? If you're in the program now, or you join the program and do absolutely nothing with it, why would you want to stay in the program just in case a friend or family member wants to buy something? Then it's going to cost you more money. Then someone's going to come to me crying saying, Tony, yeah, but yeah. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, you're in the program. You know how it works on self-generated leads. So if it's not working for you or you're not working for it, then leave the program. And then you can go right back. What I mean by leave the program doesn't mean you leave Xtreme. It doesn't mean you leave LPT. That means you're no longer in the Xtreme Max program. So I don't want people telling me, how long do I have to stay? That's the wrong question. You don't ask, how long do I have to stay? That means you don't see the vision. You say, what do I have to do to succeed? And then whatever expectations, you exceed every single one of them because you're that hungry. You want to make it work. So that's what I'm looking for. That's the type of hunger and desire that I'm looking for in an agent. And if that's not you, it's all good. Stay where you're at. But no one can say, you know what, Tony didn't even try to explain the program to us so that we can make the right decision. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Folks, here's the thing. Don't it maybe you felt a little shy to ask me, but I'm trying to leverage my time. If I've allotted this time right now to answer questions, then it's not cool if you reach out to me and say, I didn't want to ask you this question. Can you talk to me now? Because now you're just using up time that I already had devoted for this. Okay, so we all have to be really, really good with our time, right? Most valuable asset we have. So this is the time to ask questions. It's ask questions now or forever hold your peace. So going once.
I have another question. I'm sorry.
No, do not apologize. I do not want apologies. I want questions. Yes.
So for me, that I just started with the team and I'm supposed to be using my mentor. How would that apply for this program? Because I haven't.
That's a fantastic question. You're going to have to factor in at least the use of your mentor on one transaction.
Okay, so it will be the same, but just putting
Yeah,
them
in other
together.
words,
Okay.
you're going to make even less. You're going to make
Okay.
even less, but you only have to do that on one transaction and you're getting a very valuable lesson. Okay. Normally, a program like this would not be available to new agents because there's a lot you don't know. So, what we do is just use the mentor like you normally would in that one transaction. And now you're off to the races. You're off to the races and you can accomplish whatever you want. But yes, if you are brand new, never done a deal, and your agreement with us is you have to work with a mentor on one transaction, then you need to go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry. I already covered the cost of the program, CB. That I can send out the recording later, but I'm not going to repeat that. With all due respect, I'm not going to repeat that. Okay. So yeah, that would be it. And of course, you can always talk to your mentor and say, hey, look, I'm in this program right now. Is there any way that maybe kind of sort of whatever? Because here's how I would look at it like a mentor, right? A mentor makes nothing if you don't ever have a deal, right? And the reason why the agent never has a deal is because the agent doesn't do any prospecting or the agent doesn't do any lead generation. So if I were a mentor and you came up to me and said, listen, Tony, I went in on this program so I at least can get something going, I would probably be okay saying, well, look, I'll make a little less because a little less is more than a whole lot of nothing, which is where we're at right now. Okay. So sum it all up. You're at 90-10 right now. Not you, Catherine, but somebody else out there. You're at 90-10 right now with the team. You have not sold anything all year. You do not have a single prospect for the rest of the year. I'm offering you an opportunity, if you qualify, to get leads and still dig into my pocket and make it so that you can still make 80-20 as opposed to 70-30 on any self-generated leads. Wow. But that's only for someone that enters the program by the end of the month. They have to be officially in the program. That means we had a conversation. I felt that the agent was right for the program. And it's like, great, you can make it in on the deadline. I've had people say, Tony, you know what? I'm going to kick it around. I'm going to think about it. I go, that's fine. Just as long as you know that come September 1st, the 80-20 on the self-generated lead, that goes away. That doesn't exist anymore. It's like it never happened. And then it's up to the agent to decide. Anyone else? No, no one, the only person that knows what was assigned to you in FUB is me and the executives from LPT. Nobody else has access to your leads. Okay. So that's a very valid question. So when you're entering your database into FUB, okay, the other agents on the team do not see that. Now, let's say you entered a bunch of stuff, whatever, and then you exit the program. Okay, then you have the ability to start paying $49 a month for FUB. Because let's say you fell in love with it and you like it. It does a lot of great things. Or you can just export the leads that you entered, and then you can put them into whatever. I will tell you this. Let's say, for example, somebody is in the program, was issued a few leads. They decide to leave the program, and then one of those leads closes. You're still subject to the old terms because that lead was given to you while you were in the program. So it prevents someone from saying, wow, man, I just got $1 million lead. Let me leave the program now. No, the system already knows that that lead was issued to you. So that still, even if you left the team, would still come under the terms that you were under. All right. Anyone else? Okay. All right, folks. Well, listen, I know I'm a little testy right now, only because I'm just too logical a person. I'm just too logical a person. It's, and I keep going back to the decision that Gabi and I made to join LPT. That came at a cost for us, but we were thinking big picture. We were thinking long term. And it's just, I cannot for the life of me understand this mindset of not having any transactions, or maybe one sometime in the future, and hanging on to, but I'm going to lose 10%. I mean, what about everything else you gain? All these other leads. But all I can do is explain it to the best of my ability. It either works or it doesn't. But I think that for the right person, this could be a game changer, so long as you're willing to put the effort in, so willing as you're coachable, so willing as you're committed, you're hungry. I think it could be huge. So last chance. Any other questions? All right.
One more question. Are the leads going to be assigned to one person in particular? Like they're not going to be shared with the team. It's like if I get those leads, those are my leads, and that's about it.
That's a great question. Yeah, I love the questions. Yeah, it's not like, okay, guys, whoever calls this person first, if they're assigned to you. Now, again, and I get help from them on the back end. If they see that someone's doing nothing with these leads, then the leads can be recalled and resent to somebody else. So, for example, I can log in right now. I can pull up an agent's name, and it tells me everything that agent's done in the past week, 30 days, or whatever. So if it's been 30 days and there's 0 calls, as management, as a leader, what am I supposed to do with that? Let those leads die? Or say, sounds like you're not in a position to work those leads. We're going to take those back and give them to somebody else.
Okay, makes sense.
That should not happen. That should not happen. And so what happens is you learn to use FUB. Like, for example, you can text through FUB as well. You know why texting through FUB is smart? Because it documents it. But you also can't say, Tony, I didn't make any phone calls, but I sent 250 texts. No, it doesn't work that way. Anybody can send a text. If you're not willing to physically call and have conversations, then the program is not right for you. Text is one aspect of it. Email is one aspect of it. But nothing comes close to making those attempts. And sometimes you got to try someone several times. Just timing is everything. And then when that person finally says, hey, man, thank you so much for not giving up. I was going through a bunch of things in my life, but I'm ready to buy right now. That's what can potentially happen. But you can't hide behind text. You can't hide behind email, because we don't need you for that. We could send those out ourselves. We need people to call, engage in conversations that lead to appointments, that lead to contracts, that lead to closings. Does that make sense? All right, everyone. Well, listen, that's it for me. Well, here's the thing. I'll take Shanice's here. You can continue using Lofty for your website because, you already have it. Why not? And the leads. Now, more than likely, what you could do is you could substitute any leads that come in through the website to automatically go into FUB. But no, you should not be using Lofty as a CRM on your own leads and FUB on the company generated ones. You just, you could, but at the end of the day, once a transaction happens, it has to be entered into FUB anyway. We do not monitor anybody's progress or performance using anything other than FUB. You may have made 100 phone calls in one day, entered every single one of those into Lofty, and as far as we're concerned, you're at the beach all day doing nothing. Okay, so take Lofty out of your mind. If this program is right for you, and if you get accepted to the program, you put Lofty aside in a cute little corner there, and you say, okay, be my website. I'll have the website changed to send any leads that come through my website into FUB, but that's it. You have to become good at FUB. Yes, it's a new program, but it's kind of like the industry standard. It's the one that virtually all teams use when it comes to lead generation. It's that good. And if you really learn how to use it, it can be an incredible asset. Most people only use probably 10% or 15% of it. All righty. All right, folks. Well, listen, if this is right for you or you think it's right for it, or send me a direct message or whatever, and then we can schedule a time to have a one-on-one conversation so I can get a really good feel of if this is right for you. And if it is, everything else, we can get you started immediately. You can get started on this program tomorrow if I think you're the right candidate for it. Okay. This is not about sit on the sidelines and wait 30 days. No, you could be in it in the next day or two. I just have to know, because I learned my lesson. I have to know going in, is this person really, really going to go after it? And I also have to make very, very clear that if you're not performing within the first 2 to 4 weeks, what's going to happen? So no one can say, hey, you didn't warn me, you didn't give me a chance. So if something's going on in your life, and I get it, we all have stuff. If something's going on in your life right now that would prevent you from really, really focusing on this and doing it the right way, don't ask to be a part of it. You can ask to be a part of it 3 months from now, 6 months from now, but don't set yourself up for failure by signing up and not being able to give it your all. Nobody benefits from that. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.